the one and only Steve Bannon. He is the host of The War Room, the hottest show in the history of all radio and TV shows ever. And I get to be on him at 10 a.m. today, so I'm honored for that. He's growing like hotcakes around the world, Hong Kong, China, Europe. This thing is, we get calls. We do Vox Populi. We get calls from Ireland, England, Germany, Australia, New Zealand. We got a call the other day all over the United States. And it's unbelievable what he's doing, breaking through the firewall of fake news. And he's with us now, and he's right in the middle of this. He understands. There's two people in America that understand the deplorables and Trump voters, and better than anybody, that's me and Steve. And Steve is with us now. Hey, Steve Bannon, great to have you with us, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, John. Appreciate it.
I tell you what, so a couple of things I want to go over. Very quickly, special session. They need 29 signatures in the Senate. They're working on it. They're going to make a statement at noon. I understand they're close right now, but not there. So we're waiting on that. They convene at their retreat at 2 p.m. today. That's number one. They need 91 in the House. That's the second thing. Out of 106 Republicans, the president got on the phone yesterday with Speaker of the House David Ralston, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. Both of them don't want a special session. We understand he had a 15-minute phone call with them. I'm trying to get an update from their whip, Jason Ridley from Dalton. He's delayed in a meeting. They're desperately trying to get the signatures. So that's two things. Here's the third thing we got today. Representative Colton Moore from the 1st District in Georgia, 27 years old, told one of our listeners in Idaho yesterday, in Boise, Idaho, that they were having trouble getting to the 91 signatures because some of the more veteran representatives were worried, get this, A, they'd be doxxed if their name was on the petition, or that people would come to their home and, do something to them. And 3, they were afraid that they had a special session and this election got questioned or overturned, that Antifa would come and burn down the city of Atlanta. So Colton, Representative Moore, was saying that's the reason that they're struggling to get to 91. So let me lay that out there, Steve, and get your reaction to that.
Well, courage is hopefully contagious here. It's going to take some courage, right? There's going to be some blowback. There's no doubt about that. But what are you defending? Why are you even an elected official? You're sitting there. You got to defend your oath of office. You got to defend the Constitution. You have to defend the Republic. You have to defend the state of Georgia. We're not going to be able to have free and fair elections if you don't do it. Those people, and that's who ought to be outed right now. If you that type of coward, you ought to be put forward as a coward, because that's just pure cowardice. Yeah, there's a lot of this. Not going to be, this is not going to come just free. You're going to catch a lot of grief from me. This is going to cause a lot of controversy, right? But it has to be done. Michael Patrick Leahy, on the paper that you co-founded, the Georgia Star. Everybody in the country should read this piece today. We had Leahy on the show yesterday, which is unbelievable enough about these mail-in ballots and no chain of custody. But the Georgia Star is going around and calling the basic registrars in each state. I think it was Fulton County last night that told them that they'll have the proper paperwork on January 19th. That's just in your face, right? They're talking about certifying these elections. They have no chain of custody. I think up to 500,000 of these mail-in votes. That was all done, part of it because of this signature situation with this consent that nobody knew about. What is going on down in Georgia? How did all this happen under the darkness of night, under the cover of night? And yes, I'm sorry that you're going to have to put your name on a document. That's what people elected you for. And if you're not going to do it because you're afraid, then you got to be outed. And people got to know I'm not doing it, not because I don't think it's the right thing to do, because I'm afraid I'm going to be doxxed, or I'm afraid the media is going to say, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is going to say bad things about me, or Antifa is going to say bad things about me, right? This is what we're fighting for right now. This is why you have to have courage. This is the same, remember, it's the same lack of courage that people look the other way on the rise of Hitler, on the rise of Mussolini, on the rise of the military junta in Japan. Today is the 79th anniversary of Franklin Roosevelt going to Congress and calling December 7th a day that would live in infamy, right? And this is about, and Churchill, who became our partner in the war, said, used to always say, one of his favorite sayings is that courage is the most important of all the virtues, because it's upon courage that all the other virtues rest. And I think we're now down to gut check time with the assembly in Georgia. We've seen from their senior executives, Kemp is a disgrace. The lieutenant governor is even a bigger disgrace, if that could possibly be. And the Secretary of State is a schmarmy operator. And these guys are going there smug, particularly the male model airhead lieutenant governor, to go on there consistently. We've asked him on the show, by the way, and asked the staff to have him on the show anytime he wants, to go on TV every day and just smugly with that smirk sit there and go, there's nothing wrong here. When you see there's three
Cosmo Man, yeah.
Cosmo Man, there's three different verticals in Georgia. You know, the one vertical is the over 140,000 just illegal ballots, whether it's illegal aliens, felons, people under 17. That's been by the lawyer Smith been laid out very convincingly. Then you have the whole Michael Patrick Leahy, this whole the fiasco around the mail-in ballots, which has not been sorted for the January 5th election, right? And then you have the whole situation in Ware County with the Dominion voting system. You have three verticals that have to be investigated in Georgia. And you can tell from the polling, Trafalgar, if you look at the crosstabs, Trafalgar had, I think it was 53% of people in Georgia think that something untoward happened in this campaign, right, in this election. And 58% want to see, I think it was Quinnipiac, it was McLaughlin, 58% want to see a special session called. Mm-hmm. And I say, hey, somewhere between 53 and 58% is the real vote that Donald J. Trump got.
Right.
So to have the President of the United States calling a Ralston in these heads shows you this is of a national importance. This is beyond Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. This is beyond the Trump movement. This is beyond the Republican Party. This is, as a nation, we have to ascertain only legal votes count. If we get in a situation that just all votes count, whether they're legal or not, we're done as a democracy, right? And you look at every state. Look at Wisconsin. These heroic representatives up there that are fighting hard. Wisconsin's got a bulletproof case of what they was caught stealing. They're caught cheating. Mm-hmm. Look at Michigan. Right now they're up at Antrim. They just finished the analysis up there of the Dominion voting systems. You got this thing in Wayne County, right, in Detroit with 135,000 questionable ballots. You've got Pennsylvania. You've got Arizona. You've got Nevada. And the evidence continues to build up. Quinnipiac just had a poll yesterday. I think 43% of the American people think that the election was that it was illegal. They had illegal activity. 43% of the American people. And remember, the mainstream media is only covering this to heckle it, right? They're only, and even Fox, you don't get any straight coverage. They all say it's baseless. It's baseless. It's baseless. It's baseless. That's all the propaganda. And yet 43% of the American people think that something's up here. And that number is only going to grow. This is why I keep saying if the Biden administration is serious about trying to be an administration and not a foe stealing it, right? If they ever really want to take the oath of office, they've got to reach out to unite the country, and they've got to actively, instead of fighting these things with Perkins Coie, their law firm, right? That's basically the architect of this fiasco, of this steal. They've got to unite the country by getting engaged here, which they're not going to do because they think they've got this. And citizens have risen up. It's going to come down to Georgia's going to be a center. Georgia and Wisconsin are, to me, the two central players in this. And in Georgia, you're just seeing political cowardice. You're seeing courage from Senator Beach and Senator Burt Jones and others. But it's time now for people to stand and be counted. And I'm sorry if he doesn't want to be doxxed, or if he doesn't want somebody protesting outside of his house, if he doesn't want the Atlanta Journal-Constitution or CNN in Atlanta saying bad things about him. Hey, that's just that you should have thought of that when you ran. And if that's the case, you should step down.
You should resign.
So, you should resign. Do the honorable thing. It's if you're too much of a coward on here, then step down, right? But there's just no way a rational human being can look at what's happening in Georgia and think this doesn't want to be pursued. Look at Michael Patrick Leahy's efforts at the Georgia Star to go around to these registrars. Some are saying yes, they'll get you the documentation right away. Some people are on it. Others admit there is no chain of custody of these things.
Well, there's no in the biggest vote counties they had with the mail-in ballots, which is DeKalb and Fulton. There's no chain of custody. And Fulton was in your face with us with the Georgia Star. By the way, go to georgiastarnews.com for all of this. So they tell us They tell us we'll get back to you on January 19th. I mean, that was like you said, it was
No,
just in your face. On the eve of Biden's inauguration, we'll get back to you. Have a good day.
So every citizen of Georgia should read that article and should call their representative and go, what does this mean? And what are you doing about it? And why should we not have a special session? This is outrageous. I think, look, to win a landslide on January 5th, to me, it's very simple. You call a special session, and all the Trump movement is going to say, okay, this thing's getting sorted. It's now an appropriate, proper, adjudication. I'm all in on stopping. Make sure they can't steal it on January 5th. But unless they do that, all the commercials in the world are not going to get people out there. What's going to get people out there is action. And quite frankly, I think immediately after the January 5th, after sealing the victories in the Senate, you ought to recall Kemp, you ought to recall the lieutenant governor, you ought to recall the secretary of state. It's unacceptable, I would think, as a Georgian, to have these people on national TV smirking, right, at this effort to not even get down into drill down on the three different verticals you got, and particularly when Fulton County answers a flippant answer like that, it was just to put it in your face. And they don't still do anything. That shows you what you got done.
Well, they have nothing for the Trump voter, these Republicans, but absolute disdain. In fact, I've got three other issues to go over with you very quickly. Stephen K. Bannon with us, host of the War Room, the fastest growing show in America. I'll be on at 10 o'clock. So, Steve, last night Senator Perdue goes on Newsmax, I think Greg Kelly, if I'm not mistaken, and basically he blames the Trump voters and says something to the effect of, well, the Trump voters are mad because their guy lost. No, we're not mad because their guy lost. We're mad because it got stolen from us, and we want action. And he doesn't. Is he tone deaf?
I don't know, but the Trump voter is not mad because Donald Trump lost. Because Donald Trump didn't lose. His staff ought to do some research. President Trump did not lose. President Trump won, as I said for months, what was going to happen. He won an amazing victory. He won an amazing victory on votes that matter, called legal votes. This was stolen, or it's attempted to be stolen. It hasn't been stolen yet. And it won't be stolen as the deplorables stiffen their spine. The polling's coming our way. Every day that there's more information, and they can mock and ridicule Rudy Giuliani all they want. His roadshow around the country started to put forward, including in Georgia with the video, started to put forward to people evidence that this needs to be pursued both in the courts and in the legislatures. And so Senator Perdue, if that's the quote, no, they're not mad. Let me reiterate, because I spend more time than anybody but John Fredericks talking to deplorables throughout the country and people that are crowdsourcing information and working on going door to door and knocking on doors. They are not mad because Trump lost, because Trump didn't lose. He won. What they're doing is defending the integrity of the voting system for generations to come. And they're doing that the good old-fashioned way by elbow grease. And Senator Perdue and his staff, they ought to spend some time and maybe talk to some of the deplorables about why they're so outraged about what's going on and why it's going to happen to him, because the same methodologies to steal the vote are going to be around on January 5th.
Exactly. Nothing's going to change it. All right, let's get to Texas and the lawsuit that Texas is filing. One of our callers, a lawyer, Dr. Joe, called in earlier, said he was so excited because that was going to move the timetable up, and he said that was the number one thing that can change the outcome. What is your view on that, Steve Bannon, the Texas lawsuit?
I think it's a bombshell, but I think it's fantastic, and I think it shows you we have both technical issues from the Constitution and whether this is constitutionally, it can be done, and that's what the lawsuit. Ted Cruz has stepped up and said he'll argue Mike Kelly and Sean Parnell's case when it gets to the Supreme Court. You're having Mark Levin and Ted Cruz. One of the blessings we have on the right, we have, I think, the best set of constitutional experts. And when Mark Levin and Ted Cruz are worked up on the constitutional issues, it's time for people to sit up and take notice. These are not gentlemen who lightly throw out things about the Constitution. And when they start talking about some of these laws and what happened in state legislatures and where the referendum's done, these guys are experts. I'm not. But when they talk about things like this, I pay attention. And here's why. they don't just throw out random stuff about the Constitution. These two gentlemen are as serious as they get. So when Ted Cruz volunteers to argue in front of the Supreme Court the case, people ought to sit up and take notice. When the people as serious as they are in Texas, remember, Texas rejected categorically the Dominion voting system. They went through it chapter and verse and said this thing's unacceptable at every level. People should read that report. The folks down in Texas are serious people. Okay, whether you like their politics or not, the people at the state level are very serious people. And when they come out and saying, "Hey, they're going to do a lawsuit," people should pay attention. There's a whole raft of constitutional issues here, besides just the technical things of how they tried to steal this, whether it was illegal voting, whether it's Dominion voting system, or whether it was all this stealing by the no chain of custody on the mail-in ballot. So I think it's very important. It's another important element, and that's why this next couple of weeks is going to be quite hectic.
All right, Steve Bannon, another question. I had a caller earlier, Tom from Pennsylvania, who disputed the 270 argument and said even if these states don't certify the Biden electors, if they don't certify anybody, that he said according to the law, according to the Constitution, if Biden simply has a majority, he wins. True or false?
Okay, this popped up a couple weeks ago. This is when the Democrats get nervous that states are going to flip. When they get nervous, when they look at the lawsuit in Wisconsin, when they see what's happening in Georgia, when they see these poll numbers shifting, when they see what's going on in Arizona and there's only 10,000 votes, and they start getting nervous, they've come up with this thing that it's not about the 270, it's about the absolute number that's in there so he could win by a majority. This is a technical issue. The experts I've talked to saying depending on how it's presented, it's 270. But this is, I think, what you always should take is that there are people on the left right now that are nervous. Everything from Kamala Harris, who has not resigned yet, to people that are the Perkins Coie and other law firms are paying a lot of attention to whether it's the lawsuit from Texas, whether it's Ted Cruz saying he's going to argue in front of the Supreme Court, whether it's what's going through the state courts and going to be argued at the Supreme Court, the Reince Priebus overseeing this lawsuit in Wisconsin. You know, the left is getting very nervous. They're not cocky about this. That's why they don't want to talk about it. But they see the polling numbers. They see that with a complete suppression of news on this and continue this propaganda that all these charges are baseless. They see that the American people are awakening to the fact that this thing was stolen. Okay, and they're getting nervous, and so now they're coming up with every kind of perturbation, like, oh, okay, fine, you can flip a bunch of states and get on the 270, get to 269, but it still does not get kicked to Congress in a contingent election because it would just be the majority. So at 235, you would still win. That is a specious argument, and I think that you would get constitutional lawyers, people I've talked to, said no. The way this thing will be delivered, it'll have to be 270, or it gets kicked in as a contingent election in the House of Representatives by state, and state party delegations will drive that, of which we control, I think, 27.
Stephen K. Bannon, I want to thank you for being with us today. I got to get out, but the Sidney Powell, and I've only have a minute, the Sidney Powell case kicked out, the judge Bannon kicked it out, said A, she didn't file it early enough, B, she doesn't have standing, and he said even if I gave this to you, it would get dismissed ahead of me. Is this just the march to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I think you're going to get better around this thing about standing and all that. Sidney Powell will be reworking this and appealing right away. And look, she's one fighter on a front of a lot of fighters, and so stay tuned. So it's
right.
Don't people should not be disheartened. Just look, the polling's coming our way as people get information. They're sitting there going, "There's something not right here," and that's why the Georgia Star. What you've done, you and Leahy, is so powerful. Everybody should read that. The arrogance of Fulton County is in your face. They're going to get back to you on the day before the inauguration, which is the only hard date. Not today, the safe harbor, not the 14th, not the 23rd, not even the 6th. The only hard date hardwired into the Constitution is high noon on the 20th of January of 2021. That's hardwired in. And in Fulton County, they came back in your face to say, "Yeah, I think we'll have everything. We'll get back to you on the evening of the 19th."
Go to Georgia Star News. Got to put in news. GeorgiaStarNews.com. Steve Bannon, thanks for being with us. I'll see you in an hour.